I'm the one who wants to be with you.
An all-new episode of the Mitch, Lafon, and Jeremy White Show.
Tuesday at noon.
Available wherever you stream.
Wrote to be with you about this girl. And we remained friends for a while, and I just kind of lost touch. She married a musician, Scottish fella, but yeah, lost touch with her. I loved it. I've talked about her a few times over the 30 years.
Right.
And I kind of haven't heard from her. You know, I think I ran into her one time at a store in San Francisco where she was in some retail thing, but I would love to see her again.
Wow. Yeah, that record, Lean Into It, the 30th anniversary, you can pick it up. I mean, it's so good. The remastered version, like it sounds awesome. And the cool thing about that song, To Be With You, I mean, it's so bizarre because it's an acoustic ballad in a way, but then you listen to everything else. And I mean, you listen to Just Take My Heart and it's like the most 80s sounding guitar and the drums and Mitch loves, I was going to say, I'm looking at Mitch and Mitch is looking, he's like, oh God, he's going to get into Cannonball Snare. I'm just curious. I mean, what's the biggest difference between writing a song like To Be With You and, you know, recording something like Just Take My Heart? I mean, how do you make the decision to go acoustic versus fully produced?
Well, To Be With You, you know, I wrote that when I had the nucleus of that song when I was 16 years old, and I kind of carried it in my bag of tricks for years. And then in 1988, I actually got some help for it with this fellow named David Graham, and him and I finished it. And I played it for Paul Gilbert when we were putting Mr. Big together, and he goes, just to show him that, hey, I could write songs too, you know. I mean, this was a song I'd written a long, long time ago, and I'd already had a couple albums too, but I was just showing him that, I think he was saying that he was a big Beatle fan. And I go, ooh. And I looked in my bag of tricks, and To Be With You has kind of a Beatlesque sound to it, you know, and he loved it. But it wasn't one of those things where he went, oh, this would be perfect for the album. You know, we held on to it for another year or two, you know?
Wow.
And so 1991, when we started the Lean Into It album, I brought that song up. Paul said, yeah, that's a good little song you got, you know, that kind of thing. It was like the little engine that could. And I played it for Kevin Elson, our producer, who produced all the great Journey records. And I also played it for Herbie Herbert, our manager. And they went, man, that's a strong contender. Could possibly be a radio kind of song. Oh, okay, that's cool. And then it just got kind of put further away from the pile of songs that we had written. And there was a chance it wasn't going to make it. I mean, I had one song, it was called Stop Messing Around, that actually ended up on that 30th anniversary. But I love To Be With You, but I was pushing for this other song. I wrote them both, you know, but I was pushing for this other song. Yeah. And the only kibosh with Pat Torpey goes, oh man, that sounds like Aerosmith. And I was like, what's your point? That's awesome. And he goes, no, I don't like my drums and sound too much like Aerosmith. Let's take that other song. So we put To Be With You on it. I mean, it was a fluke. And it ended up, we didn't know where to put it on the,
track listing or whatever, the sequence.
Yeah, the sequence, right. Sequence, I can never remember that word. It's French, right?
It is, séquence.
And, Lafon. Anyway, so To Be With You ended up on the end of the record, and we had released like 3 to 4, maybe even 5 singles that were out there on album, rock radio. And I'm all over the place on this song, but that was a song that just got brought in. I mean, I was so happy that the guys actually took the chance to let's put an acoustic song on the record. But I think the guy that opened the gates for that, because we had all this 4 on the floor type of rock and roll music.
Yeah.
Paul wrote a song called Green Tinted 60s Mind that was so left field, almost prog pop a little bit. Right. And we went, yeah, that's a great song, and chock full of harmonies. And yeah, let's do that. So I think that's how To Be With You inched its way in the circle. Sorry for the roundabout,
Wow. No,
long
it's just
answer.
really interesting because I mean, so many times you talk to artists and they talk about their biggest hit or a song that became massive, but meanwhile, it was just sitting on the studio floor for so long.
Yeah, and but Just Take My Heart. I had so I have a songwriting partner that I hooked up with around that Lean Into It album. We've been friends and written tons of Mr. Big songs and other songs for other people for years. His name is Andre Pessis.
Mm.
And
Andre, more French.
Andre Pessis, yeah. Oh,
André Pessy.
Andre Pessi.
André Pessy.
Pessis, yeah. Anyway, he great guy, and him and I we met through another mutual friend of ours. This guy Alex Call, who had written 8675309. Yeah, he wrote for Tommy Two Tone, and Alex and I were together. And Alex thought of this idea, like, "Hey, I got this great title, Just Take My Heart." I go, "What do you think of that?" And I go, and immediately I went like, "Just take my heart when you go, because I don't need it anymore." And I was going through like a major breakup at the time with one of my wives. I can't remember. Anyway, and I just lyrically just poured it out first. Before he just had the title, I wrote all the lyrics, and then somehow it didn't work out with Alex. I couldn't get a hold of him or something. And I got together with Andre, and him and I perfected the lyrics. I wrote the music on piano.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I wrote it on piano, really
Wow.
poppy. I wrote a lot of songs. Well, a lot of songs is 4 or 5 in Mr. Big. So
Right.
I wrote 2 songs, Rock and Roll Over and Big Love, on the first Mr. Big album on piano. And I gave it to Paul, and he did his magic to it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Just Take My Heart. To Be With You, actually, the demo that I did, I play piano.
It's interesting
So,
to hear
yeah,
that
I
you
don't
wrote
know.
that. Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting you hear you wrote that on piano, because then you go listen to the arrangement and Paul's guitars and that
Oh, no,
clean
no.
guitar tone, and like it's amazing how you could just take it and turn it to something else.
He was really good at that kind of stuff. We used to do the Who song Baba O'Reilly.
Mhm.
Yep.
With all that
Keyboard.
keyboard stuff and all the loops, like all that stuff. And he took all the keyboards of that song and put it on guitar, or kind of made it for the guitar.
Yeah.
Same thing where he was so good at that stuff. I remember this one time we were at Leeds in London, and Leeds
In the UK.
in England, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Please. North of Manchester, Mitch.
Yeah. Anyway, we're playing Leeds, and Pat Torpy breaks a drum pedal, and we're like standing around with a thumb up my ass. What am I going to do? I've already told a few stories to the crowd, and Paul goes, and I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan, and Paul knows this as well, and I think he is as well. And he learned the whole Nelson Riddle arrangement of "Fly Me to the Moon," Frank Sinatra live at the Sands. I mean, you guys have no idea. It was like, this huge arrangement with strings and keyboards and everything on guitar. And we played "Fly Me to the Moon." And I wish, this is way before cell phone cameras, but brilliant. Yeah, he was so
I
good.
would have loved it. I bet you he still remembers how to play it.
Yeah. Time to rip it out again.
We did it. Actually, there might be something on YouTube that he might have played a little piece of it.
Mhm.
And then Pat got his pedal together immediately. But at that Leeds gig, we played the whole "Fly Me to the Moon,"